Welcome back to Uncharted, the Entrepreneur's Adventure Podcast, the show where we trade the grind for purpose, ditch the comfort zone, and build the damn life you keep saying you want. Now, today's guest, I'm sitting down with a man who is literally proving that the next generation of entrepreneurs are already lapping most adults. Jeremy Hahn is helping kids, and I'm talking 5-year-olds to 25-year-olds, build real businesses, real revenue, and real confidence. And one of his students is a 15-year-old girl, started when she was 12, and she's already doing 6 figures. 15 years old, and she's doing 6 figures. Just let that slap you in the face for a moment. If that's not a kick up the arse, I don't know what is. This conversation is all about fear, purpose, community, and one rare spark that you feel in the moment between breaths. The moment you decide to stop living the same year 90 times over and over and over until you die, and you finally take a step into the unknown, out of your comfort zone, and into the life you would love to live. Let's get into it. So Jeremy, what does adventure mean to you, and how you live your life now, and the multiple things you are doing now?
Yeah, adventure to me really just means capturing life. You know, it's so easy to kind of fall into the rut and the routine, the grind, and you just lose the reason for existence. So that adventure just means grabbing a hold of that. And that might look like a big trip and something fun, or it may just be something new to explore in your day. It can be simple, or it can be a big experience, but just grabbing a hold of those things that bring you joy, give you life.
Yeah, I love what you said then. There's something I heard. I can't remember who it was actually, but there's a quote, and I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, but they said, most people live one year 90 times or something like that.
That's right.
But you need to live 90 years on time in your life to kind of emphasize the need to be trying new and different things, which is, yeah, what it's all about. And I'm right there with you on that. Talk to us about what you're doing with, because I was fascinated by this when you applied to be a guest. What are you doing with young entrepreneurs, and is it called the Young Entrepreneurs Showcase? Have I got that right?
That's right. That's our event, and now we have recently we purchased a former elementary school in our town, and have developed the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, which is coming online here as a full after-school program to allow kids and young adults, we go ages 5 to 25, allow those kids to explore what business looks like to them. And, we've got everything from the lemonade stand all the way to 3D printers and other things that kids are trying. And it's amazing to me that even our 5, 6, 7-year-olds are producing products that you would see in retail stores. I mean, these look so professional. And just allowing them to explore and ask the questions themselves, but having the resources available for them to find the answers has been amazing to see how some kids particularly kids who maybe come from a background or a family where they don't have much and maybe don't know where to explore, how well they have done on their own, making something great for themselves.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, because I remember when I was in school, and I don't know what it's like in the US for school, but in the UK, I took business studies as a subject in high school, and it was terrible. Nothing against the teachers or anything, but I feel like we're not kind of set up to do anything like what you're doing there. It would be so much better if things were more practical rather than just reading out of a textbook. This is marketing. This is what you need to do to register a business. I mean, it's just like, come on.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is something I was really interested in kind of talking about, and because have you heard of Daniel Priestley?
No, I don't believe I have.
No, he's an Australian entrepreneur who's moved over to the UK, and he talks about how the school system, especially in the UK, is set up for the industrial age and not for the digital age, which we are now in. So he feels like we're almost setting kids up to fail, almost not fully fail, but we're not giving them enough to be able to go out into the new, and get jobs and create their own things. There's not enough of people being aware that they can create their own businesses. It's always just a case of Do this and get a job.
Yes, yeah, that I need to pick him up. So that's right where we fall is how do we help kids have these practical real world experiences so they can find success in a changing market. Whatever's next, I mean, AI or whatever's emerging, how do we adapt so that we're still relevant, we can still make a living for ourselves, we can still live life as an adventure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so are you how does this work with the kids then? Are you actually there yourself running these kind of workshops with them? How
Yeah, I love to teach. Right now, before the academy has started, what we do are we do two showcases a year. So our entire city shows up and kids open for business that day. As a matter of fact, our Chamber of Commerce cuts the ribbon. We do a big ribbon cutting for them. We'll have 60 or 70 businesses all open on that day. And so it looks like what you'd think of as a craft fair with each child having a 10-foot by 10-foot area to work with. And they work on their marketing and packaging and all those pieces. But leading up to that day, we have 6 sessions. And we work the kids through what we call the dream framework. So we just use the word dream and as an acronym to help them discover their dream, risk responsibly. We talk about excellence and how they define excellence and then work in it, and then move to action. And then, of course, the money. One thing I was certain about, and especially as we've added banking partners, is that all of our kids are going to know how to count cash. So that's a big part of what we do. We give them real cash to handle and, and count, and it's a kind of a fun experience. So those are 6 sessions where students come in and they develop their one-page business plan, just give us their ideas. They're assigned a peer business coach. So I actually have some of my students who have gone through before. I run them through a quick coach training, and they pair up with peers. So they develop their business plan, and then we work on their marketing plan, their customer service models, and each week they bring that new development in their business and present to a panel of local experts or business people. Kind of, I guess, the show Shark Tank. You imagine that you walk in. We try to keep it a little intimidating. Just you're walking in, and this is a big deal. Here's some bankers and business owners in town. Some of them names they'd recognize, and they're making a presentation. I think that has really taken with our students that one, that there's peer mentorship going on, but two, that local business people would care enough to invest in them. And a little bit of that angst that's inside of them helps them overcome some of their fears and realize, boy, if I just step out and share, it's amazing what comes back to me in return.
Yeah. And how old are these kids?
We have found our sweet spot at around the age of 14, the junior high age, here in the US anyway. But we have 5-year-olds who are knocking it out of the park.
Wow.
One girl started with us at 5. Her name is Joy of Joy's Fantastic Lemonade and Treats. The name keeps growing each year as she adds things. But this girl, I mean, starting at 5 years old, you picture the standard lemonade stand by the roadside, but she is now fully branded with a uniform. Her table and tent just look amazing, and the smile on her face, she knocks it out of the park. I mean, you can't walk by her without spending $20 or $30. I heard a report, I guess this summer, she's 7 years old now, but I guess this summer she was doing about 90 gallons of lemonade a week. She has now
Bloody Nora.
started bulk orders. Yes.
So how long are they with you then? You mentioned she had something on every year. So how long are they with you for?
Yeah, so we have if they just choose to participate in the showcase times, we have that twice a year and 6 weeks leading into each of those showcases. We get to interact with them. Now, our academy that has developed, our after school program for those who choose to go a little further, they'll be with us throughout the school year. And we bring in local experts to really dive deep into their marketing plan, into some of their strategies, how they do inventory and back end things for those who are interested in those. But we encourage them by providing a full maker space. So particularly kids who don't have these things at home, right? We want to provide a space where they can access those. So we have sewing machines and embroidery and 3D printers and laser burners and all the things that they might need to make their wares so they can sell them.
And is there anyone to watch out for?
Anyone up and coming?
Yeah, yeah. Is there anyone who's kind of taken it to that next level and is ready to go almost?
Yeah, we have several. One girl has signed contracts with local gas stations and is doing convenience freeze-dried foods. Another one, her business is The Littlest Things is her business name. She is not only a smart business person, but an artist. She sells wax melts, but it looks like what it smells like. So if it smells like cinnamon rolls, you will want to eat this thing. We had to help her with packaging,
Cinnamon rolls.
not edible. And she did amazing. We had the owner of a restaurant chain in, and she replicated one of his dishes in wax and brought it to him, and he almost took a bite of it. It looked and smelled the same, and she had to work on that a bit. But this last year, she now employs her mother full time. She is well into the six figures income. She's doing so well, and it's just
How old is
incredible.
she? How old is she?
She's now 15, but she
My
started when she
God,
was 12.
she's into six figures and she's 15. I thought you were going to say she's 19, 20, 21 maybe, but 50. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's there.
That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. And there must be a source of pride in there for you as well, as someone
Well,
who's
there is.
kind of
Just
taken them on this
I think
journey.
most special for me is when we see students come in who are almost paralyzed by fear in it. I mean, we have to coach them to, it takes a lot of time. Hey, it's okay. Just go share your business plan with the panel. It'll be all right. And slowly but surely, matter of fact, the girl that did the freeze dried candies I mentioned to you, she now leases her parents' basement, has it licensed with the county to do commercial packing, the whole bit. But when she started, she was petrified, could not even share her business plan. But one of our panelists kind of took her to the side and coached it out of her, and just share with me, what'd you write down? What's on the paper? And so she finally got it out. So year one, she sold enough to, kind of, okay, maybe I can make a little money. I'll try this again. And she came back and she had her script. She was still nervous, but she read it. By year three with us, or round three with us, she came out with a sandwich board strapped to the front and back of her. She had a little sample platter that she carried around and was offering samples. And she was just bold and, just courageous in doing what she's doing. And she's the one that called the local franchises and said, "Hey, I think you ought to carry my stuff." And now she's doing it.
Standing. That is amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And where are you based? And are you across the whole of the US, or are you just a certain area? How does that look?
We're based in Springfield, Missouri, just a say small town. We're about a 500,000 people all told in the area. But yes, we're reaching out in our state and even bordering states now. We have school districts interested in adding us to their curriculum. So we may go into our public school system, and then other organizations looking at adding this to what they do for families and kids.
It's amazing. I wish we had that over here when I was in school.
Yeah.
I really do. It would have been right up my street.
Yeah.
There's so many things you've kind of done and got going on as well at the minute. So tell us about um this. What's it you said in the application? It was 100-year-old school. Was that what you were talking about a little earlier, or is that something different?
This is my second 100-year-old school.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, our first, and actually where the program Young Entrepreneurs Showcase was born, was an abandoned elementary school in our town. It was just terrible things happened there. Kind of the homeless had moved in, and in the old gym, we thought it was only about an 8-foot ceiling because of the pile of trash you had to walk up on. By the time we got it cleared out, we had a full gym ceiling here, about 12 foot high. That was just crazy, the mess we had to clean up there. It took a couple of years. But there at that school, we started to work with, it was in a pretty rough neighborhood. I started to work with the students, and that's really been my kind of my purpose and my passion through life, is working with students and young adults and helping them really, like you said, find their purpose. And I love seeing that light bulb come on for students. But as I did, I connected with a job skills program that helped adults, called Jobs for Life. And it was just an 8-week program, but it helps people find purpose in work. It's not just a grind you go through to get a paycheck, but you can find some real purpose and meaning in what you're doing there. And I have never seen so much transformation in people's lives over those few short weeks, over 8 weeks, as I had people going through that. And it really got me thinking, what if we catch these kids before they get in this situation? What if we're giving them these skills early on? Some of them are the soft skills of interviewing well, and some of them are the hard skills of learning your trade. But what if we give them the confidence they need to step out in the first place? And so I adapted a lot of what was in that program, and we will re-implement that program for adults, and a lot of our parents can utilize it. Developed this program, simplified for kids, but basically the same principles there. And through that 100-year-old school building, we were able to, that first one, we were able to launch a daycare, a coffee shop. We were leasing out to a little salsa company and some others through our commercial kitchen, served community dinners. It was just so much fun what we did. And left that project and now starting this one and another school across town. And we look forward to similar activity out of that location as well, but a little more keyed in on this maker space and the Young Entrepreneurs Academy and working with those students.
Nice, nice, amazing. And what did you do before you kind of jumped into this space then? What was going on for you before all of this?
Yeah, so I've been primarily, I guess, most of my life, I've been a youth minister through various churches and organizations, and that has led me to a lot of nonprofit work and a lot of work with our local schools. And I've started about 6 businesses with those youth in my programs over the years, and I've just always been an entrepreneur myself and saw that as a great path to connect people together. As a matter of fact, in the church world anyway, I never fit real well because so many people saw it as the service time. You know, your Sunday service was the time when things happened. But I love to be outside. Let's put in a fence together. Let's go dig a hole. You know, and that was the time you really got to dive in and get to know people. And I've always enjoyed working alongside of people.
Nice. What would you say has been one, when you look back on your journey so far, what's been kind of one moment, like a leap of faith moment, I suppose we could call it? What's been one thing that sticks into your head? Because everyone I talk to, they've got one thing in the back of the mind where things just kind of kicked off for them. What's yours?
Yeah, I think it's I think there with our first 100-year-old school building, it was called the Fairbanks. There's a moment when I was leaving a pretty comfortable position. You know, I had a salary and things were going well, and I wanted to make that leap, but I was scared to death. We had kids at home, you know, lots of responsibilities and growing responsibilities. It's like, I don't want to leave that security and make the jump. And I knew if I made that jump, I had no salary, I had no promise of income for at least a time until we built things up. It's actually, I'm working on a bit of a writing piece now, the next book, and there's a whole chapter on, the paralyzing fear really is what I think stops so many of us is we think about this roadblock of leaving the security and we just become afraid and we're not willing to take the next step. And we have to overcome it. So for me, one day I went and talked to my boss and shared. Thankfully I had an amazing boss. She was fantastic. And I shared, here's what I'm thinking. This sounds crazy. And she said, well, I want to be the first donor to this project. So she, it's just amazing how when she helped me transition into it, and I did some contract work as I, shifted over with her. It was just amazing when we're willing to step out. I mean, that was a pretty nerve-wracking conversation to have with your boss that I think I'm going a different direction here. But I stepped out and had the conversation anyway and found one of my biggest supporters through that conversation.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there with fear in terms of how it just paralyzes people from taking action that can just open up their world to so many different opportunities. I heard something somewhere where somebody says you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable because everything good lies on the outside of that comfort zone. So what's maybe one thing you can kind of help someone who's maybe at the start of their journey or what's something that you tell the kids when they've got to go show their business plan to someone and they're maybe kind of doubting it and going, oh no, I don't want to, I don't want to. What's a tip or trick that you teach them? Maybe not a trick. Trick's probably the wrong word, but how do you boost their confidence to take that step?
Yeah, we tell them to start small. So let's start with sharing with your friend, share with your parents. Let's share with people that we're comfortable with and start in that small way. And even if they don't like your plan, that's okay. Ask for feedback. How could I better phrase this? How could I better communicate it? And as they work through some of that, they gain a confidence in it because they're learning what other people need to hear about their plan. And then they're getting a confidence because they've now verbalized it. You kind of speak it into existence a bit when you start to verbalize it to others. And I think writing it down, we have that 1-page business plan. And for our younger kids, we encourage them, if you don't know how to say it in words, draw it in a picture. So sometimes our business plans are full of pictures. Just come to us and share what those pictures mean. Kids all of a sudden they can relate to that. They are less intimidated to share. So a lot of times our panels, we try to have three to five on a panel just to keep it, a little impressive as you walk in. But sometimes when we have a kid who's really struggling, like I mentioned before, a panelist will just step aside and say, hey, just share with me. What did you draw here? What did you write down? We'll invite mom or dad in as well, and whatever helps them feel comfortable. And as they begin to practice and just do it. And I think this is where we miss a lot of times in school, is we don't have the time for every kid to just do things. It doesn't get into the practical. We're more worried about the theory. But if we give kids the opportunity to share, then we start to see it really come out of them and then build that self-confidence they need to take the next steps.
I love that idea of drawing it out instead of writing it
Yeah.
out. That sounds good. I love that. Yeah. Um, in terms of verbalizing it and kind of telling it to people, like a trusted group of people, I think it's maybe more for adults. I suppose it would be, they need to be probably more selective as to who those people are that they confide in as to what they're doing, because most people when they become adults have been beaten down so much by the world that if someone comes to them with something new, a new idea, and they're like, they can't see themselves doing it, can't see possibly themselves, how on earth could that happen? If I can't do it, you can't do it, kind of thing. So you need to be kind of careful as to who you let in on the kind of big dreams that you've got, because you want to make sure that support's there. Because yeah, if the first person you tell a big dream to, because it's so personal to you and something you're really excited about, and then they just poo all over it straight away, maybe.
Yeah. And we do part of the coaching session I have with the kids, even that come through and become peer coaches. We talk about, just let's be affirming in how we approach things. It may be the craziest thing you've ever heard, but we don't know. It could be the next big thing. So let's just be encouraging about it and step back. Just because their dream seems extravagant and outrageous doesn't mean it's not going to happen. We just need to step back and look at the step and the process that it's going to take to get there. One of my favorite interactions, he was in our very first round of the Young Entrepreneur Showcase. We didn't know what we were doing, and still arguably don't. But back then we were just trying to figure it out. And one of our students, he lived right across the street from that first school I told you about. So pretty difficult family situation. And he came in and we said, all right, well, what are you dreaming of? What do you think you would want to do with your life? And he said, well, I think for this showcase, which is 3 months away, I'm going to build an airplane and sell it. He said, okay. And I'm thinking a model. I said, well, how big is it going to be? What kind of material are you going to use? He said, well, I don't know. I guess they're made of metal. And are they like 100 feet long? Thinking, are you building this in your backyard? It's very apparent. He's thinking a full-size airplane, and he wants it to seat 100 people so he can take his whole family and all of his friends. And so instead of just shutting that down, and I had a couple with me, I asked him, I said, well, Ethan, what would that look like? He said, well, I guess I'd have to know how to get the wings on. That's the biggest question. And so we started backing up and kind of reverse engineering, building an airplane. So, well, what if you started with a model airplane? And then we go from a model maybe to a remote control airplane, and you can learn how the aerodynamics work. And so we backed that up, and he sold model airplanes that very first showcase and did well enough that he enjoyed it. And now fast forward, a few years later, he's enrolled in our local technical college for aviation mechanics. he's getting into it. I mean, it's just where he's going. So I'm excited to see where he goes. And it comes from, instead of squashing his dream that he was obviously not going to build a full size airplane in his backyard. Hey, I'm with you there, but let's back up. Where do we need to start? And that's the approach that we take. Let's come back to the starting point. And I think another important key there is I've read that successful entrepreneurs, the average age of the successful entrepreneur is about 40 years old. You look at that, and the reasoning is people need enough time to fail enough times to learn what they need to learn so that they can now
Yep.
be successful. So we joke we need to find a better way to celebrate our failures, but we joke this is just this is an opportunity to fail. So we want to take all that failure and compress it down to the next 4 or 5 years in your life so that when you're in your 20s, you know where to reach out and find the right answers so your business can be successful.
Absolutely. There's so many things that you were talking about then that are just so good in terms of not crushing that dream and understanding how do we break this dream down to not only make it work now, but where it can go in the future. And now he's going off to school, aviation, and incredible stuff that you're doing. And the lessons around the failure as well. I mean, every successful person has failed. It just is what it is. It's kind of like a prerequisite. I was just before we came on earlier today, I was listening to a podcast and they were interviewing a lady. I can't remember her name, but she worked on Diary of a CEO podcast as part of the branding and marketing team. And she was saying every day we were looking at how we can possibly fail so we can learn lessons to become more successful. And they said we actively encouraged failure and we even appointed a head of failure as part of the business so that they were able to take it and really kind of dig into the lessons that came out of everything. So it's such a massive part. And that's probably one of the biggest things that holds people back in terms of their fear is that fear of failure. But once I as well realized that it's kind of like a prerequisite of any kind of success. Because at first, when I first started out with my business I didn't even tell my partner what I was doing because I was scared of being a failure in her eyes, not only just me failing, but failing in her eyes as well. So there's so many different facets to it. So what you do there in terms of breaking it down and all that is amazing. And I've got such a big smile on my face as you're talking, and my face is actually hurting a little because I really resonate with what you're saying, and because this is what I do, but for people who are a bit older rather than kids. But what you're doing sounds very community based rather than one-to-one and helping one child or helping one adult. It seems very community based. So talk to us a little bit more about that and what that means to you in terms of helping the community rather than just one person at a time, I suppose. All right, people, quick gut check. You're hearing Jeremy talk about 5-year-olds running businesses, 15-year-olds hitting 6 figures, and some of you are still telling yourself that you're not ready. But if you're done letting fear run the show, get your ass into my workshop, The Power of Vision, 3 keys to mastering your results. This is where we gain clarity, understand that failure is a prerequisite, and we pull you out of the rut you keep pretending is fine. Hit the link in the show notes because your future is calling and it's time to stop ghosting it. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, that's so we start off the whole session, the 6-week session we have, with a little game, and I challenge them at our first timers that don't know the secret yet. I challenge them at who in the room thinks they're the best salesperson. You've got to be able to sell if you're going to have a business. That's a big part, no matter what you're doing. And of course, kids are raising their hand, and they're all excited. Who thinks they can sell the most in the room? So we hand out gifts, a wrapped gift to each of them, and say, well, today I'm giving each of you a gift, and we're going to play a little game of trade up. And so you're going to open that gift and have something of a certain value, and your job is to identify what in the room has the highest value and try to trade up with others, selling your item for something you think is better to that item you think has the most value. And so they spend 10 minutes doing that and buzzing around the room, trying their best sales skill and pitch, and it's fun to listen and watch it happen. And then we sit down and we say, okay, who thinks they had the best, the most valuable item? And you'll hear their reasons, this is what it's used for. I think I've seen it at this price before. We just go around the room and we hear that. And inevitably, some kid will have something they'll pull out and say, well, this deck of cards reminds me when my grandma was alive and we'd sit down and we'd play cards every weekend. It just, I think this is so valuable because of how much you can do with other people with it and how much you can care about them. And I say, okay, you're the winner. And I give them $10. That this is what sales is all about. It's that connection with other people, the value that you're offering them and the value you see in what they provide back to you to care for your family, to care for your friends, to care for your community. It's not just about a money exchange. There's really something in that. And we have to see other people, our customers, other businesses as valued members of our community and our business. And that's the foundation all the way through everything we talk about is discovering the value in what we're doing. And that's why we have standards of excellence. That's why we learn to risk responsibly. We're going to take risks, but let's do it responsibly so that we see the value in our time, our resources, and in other people. And then through that, we begin even right after that game, we introduce, and today we have some very valuable people with us. And I start to point out, here are our community partners, and we'll have several members of banks and local networking groups there. And these are the resources that are available to you. These are people who have been through failures and who have been through successes. This is who is most valuable in the room to you today. And they end up being our panelists as well. And so the kids start to see that business is not just about me making more money and watching that bottom line. Well, that's important. Otherwise, it's a hobby if we're not making money. It is an important thing. It's really about this community that we're building around the business, which for many extends to their employees they hire and others that get involved.
And what kind of impact have you seen in the community since you've been running this program?
It's been incredible to see various areas various people in our community really come around this group of students, many of which we bought this old school building because of its location. We're in another difficult neighborhood in our community. Our program's open to anyone, but we want to be accessible to those kids who maybe don't have connections otherwise. But we see some of these bankers and loan officers and others, they would not miss one of our class nights for anything because they see the value in these kids. They never would have been connected to these students otherwise. There's no way they would have driven across town, and that's a big deal for us, north and south. I don't go to the north side. They never would have done that otherwise, but now they have this incredible connection. They're building relationships. Kids are starting to open accounts at these banks. Just one example there. And just so cool to see these relationships form. And now we had one mortgage broker who now he is utilizing one of our kids who does laser burning for all of his gifts at every closing for his homes. So these kids are building these probably lifetime relationships out of it. And then we see these examples raise up in our community just south of us there. One little street, and we hold them as an example, was probably one of the worst streets in our town. The police were there all the time. But now it is this quaint strip with locally owned restaurants and great little art shops and other things that people are always walking free out there. And what's amazing to me is that these are not businesses disconnected from one another, but they have their little commercial street club. And this is a group of dedicated individuals to seeing that street and those businesses thrive. So even when COVID happens, one lady was struck with COVID pretty bad, and her business, she was looking at having to shutter the doors because she couldn't, she was at a long time to recover. Some of the other business owners personally went and opened her shop and ran it for her through that time because they cared so much about seeing her succeed that they were going to make it happen. And her business survived. She's still open today and doing well. That's what I hope to see when these students are then owning the brick and mortar and having these areas in our town, that we're seeing this difference in how business is run and how community is formed.
Excellent. And the reason I asked you about the community side is because from my perspective, it's so important to have that community of people, like-minded people who either are where you want to be or are on the same journey as you, because it can be quite a lonely thing that you're doing when you're setting up your own business and trying to make it. And there can be a lot of pressure as well. So and the fact that you're getting these kids when they're young as well and developing these friendships as part of the process is such a massive thing. And I think it was Tony Robbins said, "Show me your 5 closest friends, and I will show you the rest of your life." And for me, that community is plays such a massive part in being successful and helping people along the way. So that's kind of why I asked you about that, because I sensed it from how you were talking that it's such a big thing for yourself as well.
Really is. Yeah. And I think something surprising that's come out of this is really the community we developed amongst the students themselves. We had one of our successful, she's, I think, 14 or 15 now. Her mom came to me our last round, and they had stayed a little later and were helping to clean up. And this student, we'll call her Anna, I guess, but she is a girl you'd look at and think she's the most popular girl in school. She's, athletic. She's involved in everything. But I never would have had any doubt otherwise. I would have thought she's a very well-connected student. But there we are, kind of cleaning up, and her mom stops me and says, "Hey, I have to say thank you." She said, I don't know if you realize this, but Anna has no friends. She loves her business and what she does so much that she's made fun of at school, and people just don't want to be around her because that's what she wants to think about. She said she had no community, nobody to talk to except me. And she said, but then we found the young entrepreneurs. She said she has so many friends here. These are her people. And they're from the next town over, but drive in every time. So she is dedicated because she has found her little niche and her community that supports her. And she's doing well. I think she's gonna go places with her business as well. But it's amazing how they discover their own community and their own support once they're given the space and the opportunity to do so.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Tell me a little bit about this, and you may have touched on a little bit then, or maybe mistaking it for something that sounds similar. But tell me about this Airbnb as an adventure brand. What's that all about?
Yeah, so part of my personal adventure in life, my wife and I had 2 boys, and then decided, well, we'd love a girl, but maybe we should adopt. So we got into foster care locally here and fostering to adopt. And wouldn't you know it, that every phone call was a boy. So we said, all right, we're going to go down this road. And uh, so 3 boys later, so we had 2 of our own biological and now 3 additional boys. So 5 boys in my home, very exciting home. And we enjoy traveling and seeing family and other things. We learned that hotels don't allow families of 7 in a single room. So it was 2 rooms or nothing. And that got very pricey. So we began to stay in Airbnbs and short-term rentals, and really piqued our interest. And I had gotten into some investing in locally in some properties, and had some pretty bad luck in the area of tenants, rental tenants, and thought, well, we're either going to sell this or we're just going to try something completely different. My boy said, well, let's make it a cool Airbnb, Dad. I said, okay, well, let's try it. So our very first one, we took one of our properties and outfitted it as, of course, for them. We call it the Gamer's Oasis, and it's just this fun. It's like sleeping over in an arcade. We just outfitted it with everything you can imagine, and board games on the walls, and just so much fun when you walk in. And it's an older home, nothing super special as far as the home is concerned, but just the theme and what's available to you, it just screams family. And it was a huge hit. We barely have openings on it. It's so exciting. So now we've really gotten into that as one of our avenues of business, and a business partner and I, Kelsey, she does all the theming for us now, but we now have a musician's playground and a little history piece to our local town. And now the next town over, we have a little boutique hotel we've opened with each theme in a room, different rooms. So we're having fun with it. It's becoming a great success for us and provides for the family, but my boys have fun interacting with that. It's been this family adventure we're doing together. And of course, the boys have all kinds of ideas of what we need to do next.
I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, but it's a lot of fun. And then we love when we travel and, see other places. We love to find those unique experiences as well, because we can walk out of a hotel and, okay, we had that was an okay hotel, or we can walk away with things to talk about and things to pull us back together. These spaces really invite that to happen for us.
Yes. Amazing. And so they're actually on Airbnb now then, are they, these
Yes.
places that you've got?
Yes. They're all listed.
Excellent. I might actually go check some of them out. I'm very intrigued.
Yeah.
So tell us what else you've got going on now. Like I said at the top, you've got so much on, and you do so much. So tell us what else you've got going on.
Yeah, we like I mentioned, that boutique hotel. We actually bought a former church that had the church actually outgrew it and built a new building, and it's kind of sat empty for a while and been several things in this small town of about 1,000 people outside of our city. And so we've put in this boutique hotel with themed rooms, and now we're taking the downstairs where the kitchen was, and we're getting ready to open a restaurant here in just a couple of weeks from the time we're talking here. We also have an event center as a part of that. So this is a new fun adventure. We're near a lake here, so we have all those activities, and we'll take people out on boating trips. And you can have an all-inclusive package, or just come visit family and use the room, which that's been quite popular. We're of several towns in the area, we're the only hotel-esque type place to stay. So it's been popular to the locals as well as those looking for the experience. And we're having fun. As I mentioned, my business partner, Kelsey, this is actually going to be her project. And so where I'm sitting now is one of those rooms, and she's going to make this kind of her full-time gig, is running everything out here. Yeah.
So I'm getting the sense that you're a little busy.
Busy or just active? I like to say it's active.
I think I was going to ask you actually, but it sounds like. So I was going to ask you before you mentioned what you did, that I was like, I was going to say, how do you find the time to spend with your family as well as doing all of this? But it sounds like you get the family involved from
That's
what
right.
you've just been saying. So
We do. And it's sometimes my boys roll their eyes, we have to go there again. But then I'll try to do something fun. And especially like, what do you do in a small little town? And so we're just off the square here in this town, which is just what you'd picture as a U.S. small town square, just this little quaint little place. So we'll go walk the square and stop in at the ice cream shop and say hi to the mayor, who's very friendly and knows us already. It's just so fun. And my boys get this sense of, wow, well, we don't have this back home. Just a different sense of community for them. And it's been fun to watch them kind of grow through those experiences. And then they're learning all kinds of skills. Matter of fact, my oldest, he really keyed in, as I've been an electrician in the past. And so I do most of my own electrical work. And he really keyed in on that part of the remodel of this space. And he's decided now that's what he's going to do. He's going to be an electrician, own his own business. And his brother, who wants to be an engineer, they've already made plans now, 15 and 17. They're going to own their own company. He's going to be an electrical engineer, and the other one's going to run the operations. And they're going to have their own business. And I believe it.
I love this. I love this. I love this. What's one moment that you can look back on so far and say that was such a huge lesson learned for me, and maybe the family as well? What's one moment that you look back on and think that was kind of pivotal to where I am now? So we talked earlier about what's that one moment that kind of almost kicked things off for you, that sparked everything. But what's one moment of big lesson learned for you, and what would that lesson be?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of moments, but one big one stands out. I think I mentioned to you I wrote a book. It's a memoir, really, kind of it's a picture book for grown-ups, detailing some things around a major illness that I had. And matter of fact, my wife was 8 months pregnant with our oldest now, so we were just starting out and with our family. And I was diagnosed with a kind of a freak brain infection, something very, very rare. And at one point, they came in after several weeks in a coma and told her I had 12 hours to say your goodbyes. He'll be lucky to make it through the night. But through what I would describe as one of those miraculous scenarios, and just, kind of defied any odds. I woke up the next day instead of dying and had my memory and everything they said I would lose. I had it back and walked out of that hospital on my own strength. And through that, I think that really gave me this new sense of life. I was kind of falling into the grind and what defined success, how other people define it. I'll climb the corporate ladder. I'll please all the right people.
Mm.
And that just really helped me see that life is too short for this. Tomorrow's not promised. Let's just get out there and do something fun, do something that kind of reinvigorates me and gets me excited. So I do something crazy that scares a lot of people. On my phone, I have some people say it's my death date, but I have a countdown timer. I kind of figured out, here's where kind of my average family longevity, 87 for me. And I just put a timer on my phone, and then I have a life plan that lays out year by year, kind of some key points over the next couple of decades that I'd like to accomplish. Maybe it's a big family vacation to a certain spot, or this adventure, or a certain amount that I want to have in investing, certain goals there. And I've just mapped them out on this life plan leading up to this death date. Boy, I want to accomplish this. And while some people may find that depressing, oh, I only have that long left, I find it energizing. Like, wow, I better get to work here. I better get up and
Mm.
do something exciting. I better spend a little more time with my boys, or they're going to be grown up. And it's so good for me to realize that this life is short. Let's not live that 1 year over and over again. Let's experience something new. Let's get out and try something different. And it's something little I tell a lot of people. There was a small change that I made particularly when I was at that first school and working in the neighborhood, and already found myself kind of falling back into a little bit of a routine. I thought, boy, I just need my eyes open to what's going on in this neighborhood and how to meet more families and to really understand what's here. Each day, I told myself each day I would drive a new way into work. I would find a new path. So I left myself 10 or 15 minutes. And about the time I hit the area of my neighborhood, whatever that was, I would drive around and come in from the south side or the east side or this other road, or I'd take a left instead of a right. Just these little detours. And all of a sudden, I started to see, maybe a house that was pretty rough, but somebody was out there working on it. And so eventually I started to stop off at those little things. Or here was an abandoned store. It looked like an old timey store that nothing was happening with. So I'd stop off and talk to the neighbors. What do you know about this? Who owns this? And the more conversations I got into, the more I got to know the neighbors, almost the more hope started to spring up because someone cared enough to notice
Mm.
what was happening, to notice what was going on. And we ended up having a building that was boarded up for more than 10 years. The owner said, you know what? Sounds like you want to use that for something good. Yeah, I'll rent it to you. I think it was $200 a month. It was, cheap for us. And it was just incredible how opportunities started to open and the connections I started to make because of a simple choice to take a different path. So I talk to college students a lot, and I tell them, I said, when you're walking on campus, walk a different way, take a different sidewalk, walk through a different door, and be observant what's happening around you. It's amazing what you will see when you're willing to take those few extra minutes.
Amazing. That's so good. I was gonna you keep taking my questions away from me. I was gonna ask you what's I was gonna say what's one tool that you've kind of maybe stumbled upon, one tool or one resource that's really kind of made a difference for you, and you kind of just gave two there, so that take a different path. So yeah, amazing, Jeremy. I've loved everything that you're doing and everything you said. And tell us a little more about this book. And you mentioned you're just in the process of writing a new one as well.
Yeah.
So what's the name of the first book that you've done, and then what's the name of the second one, and when's that one? When's that one?
Yeah, the first one is called "Make Me Believe," and it's really just the story around that illness and kind of the miraculous recovery that happened. And I really believe God was involved in that, and there's just no other explanation. Even according to my doctors, I was done, but here I am. So I better find my purpose, right? Better find a reason for continuing to live. And I stopped it there. I could have gone into a deep dive on it, but it's just the story. And it's a fun read, and it was fun for me to put together. That was quite an experience, actually. Just how do I write this? And a lot of people encouraging me to, it should be a 200-page book and share every detail. It ends up being me. It's this short thing, and it's a fun read, and each page is full of full page imagery that kind of theme with the book and what's going on. And that's really inspired me to write others. I write stories for my boys now, little mini books for them, and that's fun. But the next one is that I'm in process on and down the road a ways, called Just Do Something. And I really want to tackle that. A lot of it's just kind of preaching at myself, right? Just get up and do something, because so often we're paralyzed by fear, or we think it's too big a task. Building the airplane in the backyard. Well, that's never going to happen. Well, let's start here. And we take those steps. I believe by the time he's 21 years old, Ethan is going to have built a full airplane. And so if he can do that, boy, what am I holding back on? And that's what that book, Just Do Something, is going to be about. Is what are those things we're holding back on simply because we won't take the first step? Let's just take that first step together.
And when's that one coming out, did you say? Or is it not a
I'm
date yet for
hoping
that?
late next year to have that one done. Yeah.
Sorry, Jeremy, it just cut out on me a little bit then. Are you okay just to say that again? What date is it coming out on?
I'm hoping late next year. I'm making this one not a rushed deal, but something I take my time on, and it really is kind of a testament to what I hope to be, more so than what I am, but what I hope to be. So I want to make sure it's right.
Well, I'm going to set myself a reminder to follow up with you and ask you when it does come out, because it sounds like a read I would definitely be adding to my to read list. I don't know if you can tell,
Sure, I'd be honored.
I do like books. I've got a load there and down there and
Yeah,
here and here as
great.
well. So yeah, I'll definitely be adding that. I'm just adding it to my calendar now to follow up with you this time next year. That gives you a deadline, yeah. There's one, yeah. There's one thing you've mentioned, which is my kind of biggest takeaway from this conversation is, and like you say, some people might think it's a bit morbid, but having that date, that countdown timer, because it will just hit home. I was thinking about it when you're explaining it. It will just hit home that you've got to get moving and get doing things. So yeah, thank you for that. I'm definitely gonna do that as well.
Yeah, it's great. You mentioned like enjoying reading, and what kind of prompted that in me was a book called the Happiness of Pursuit. Not like the old Will Smith movie.
It's on my shelf back there.
Is it on the shelf?
I've got it. Yep.
Good. I read through that, and of course he talks about, the life plan, and just having that plan as you go through, making everything that experience, that quest, I think he uses the word. And that's when I created the life plan. But such a good read, and it was so challenging to me, at least in my time when I read it. Wow, it's not like we have to have every day planned out, but let's set some goals for ourselves, and let's have a direction we want to go. And it's not so much life kind of tossing us to and fro. It's, oh, this happened today, and we go down this negative path. It's like, all right, that happened, but this is the goal. This is where I'm going. And wow, how much more directive is that we get to kind of command life then, instead of it telling us where we have to go.
Yeah, and that book kind of helped guide me into what I'm doing now in terms of having that big goal and that big dream and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a really, really good book. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're the first person I've come across that's also read it. So there's at least two of us.
That's right.
Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on. I feel like we could talk about so much more, and I could talk to you a lot more about everything you're doing with the schools and what you're doing for the young kids and how you're helping them and the community and everything around that. I feel like we could talk for quite some time on that, but we're going to wrap it up there. Just one kind of final thing. And I know I said you kind of stole my question of one tool, but what's kind of one mindset that people can take away as a lesson from everything you kind of do and everything you talked about in this episode? What's one mindset that someone could take away if they're listening in now? If they're maybe just starting out and thinking about taking that leap of maybe quitting the job and going for setting up their own business?
Yeah, I think, yeah, Ian, I think we hit it with the book, right? And the life plan is, are we going to let the circumstances of life tell us where we have to go? Or are we going to see something we want and go after it? I think we have the capacity to go after something we want. So let's do it. Let's make the leap. Let's just do something, right? To reach those goals, so that instead of being beat up by life and just kind of landing in a place we didn't want to be in, let's command life and let's wake up every day and be directive to what we're going to do and how we're going to do it.
Excellent. Perfect. What a beautiful place to end it. And Jeremy, how can people get in touch with you? And how can, if anyone here who is listening is maybe the head teacher in a school, how can they get in touch with you as well?
Yes, our website is livingadventure.org, and you can find there our nonprofit, and my contact information is on there as well. And then be connected over to our Young Entrepreneurs Academy that way as well. Read more about it, and would love to chat with people. I think there's something in this for every community to really see some great growth and future ahead for many places.
Excellent. Thank you, Jeremy. I've loved this conversation. So thank you so much for firstly applying and secondly coming on as well.
Thank you, Ian. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Have you ever felt like business should be more than numbers and deadlines? Like there's an entire world to explore beyond your office walls? Is adventure calling your name? I'm Ian Whitehead and I'm your guide on Uncharted, the Entrepreneur's Adventure Podcast, where I bring you real stories from visionary leaders who've built empires and climbed literal mountains. Because success isn't just about the bottom line, it's about the thrill of taking risks, the courage to pursue what truly lights you up, and the freedom to chart your own course. Each week we'll dive deep into the minds of boundary-pushing entrepreneurs and adventurers, revealing how they found purpose in the chaos and discovered their true north, both in business and beyond. So, if you're ready to break free from the ordinary, embrace bold action and inject a little more adventure into your life, welcome to Uncharted. Your journey starts here.